Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Backcheck Podcast. It's your host, Cam, and we have Jay as well, the co-host. And today we're going to be doing a video that Jay and I have been looking forward to for a long time. NHL season predictions, starting off with the Atlantic Division. And we're going to recap each division, of course. There'll be some hot takes in there as well. Jay and I will present 3 hot takes throughout the video. So be sure to leave that in the comment section below. If you enjoy our content, like, subscribe, and comment on the videos for great hockey content 365 days of the year. And we're going to start off with the 8th team. Who do you think is going to finish in the bottom of the Atlantic?
Well, I mean, this is a pretty obvious take. I mean, this is no other team besides the Buffalo Sabres is going to end up here. And unfortunately, every season we see that the Sabres end up in the top 10 in the draft lottery. They don't seem to make it much further than they used to. It's been 10 years of misery since their last playoff appearance. Jack Eichel wants out. He's probably going to be done for a few months, so maybe until January, February, we can see an appearance from him with surgery. The Sabres are they're not treating their players right. You know, we saw Eric Stahl leaving earlier this year. We saw Taylor Hall, someone they just signed as of last season. He's traded away to the Boston Bruins. So this team, hopefully Owen Power brings something to the table in the years to come. But right now, no, I don't see them going anywhere right now. So easily, this is an easy pick. Buffalo Sabres at number 8.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm obviously going to choose Buffalo as well. And I mean, they do have a nice couple young pieces. After the hire of Granato late in the year, they seem to kind of, gel a little bit. Dylan Cousins, Arttu Ruotsalainen. They've got Dahlin, who's still young. So, I mean, they do got some young pieces there. Obviously, it's going to take a lot for this team to get out of the rebuild. So 8th is it seems even generous to put them at 8. Yeah. But team that's been in the rebuild for a while, and I expect them to be there for maybe a lot longer. So 8 for Buffalo, and maybe they could turn some heads, but right now 8th is where we're going to rank the Buffalo Sabres.
I mean, their ceiling is incredibly high. They have lots of generational talent, especially on the defense. But, trading away Ristolainen was, in my opinion, a bad idea. They won the trade because Philly messed it up, but you shouldn't have traded away someone who's been on this team for so long and someone who can, be a mentor to the defense away. But that's what Buffalo usually does, and that's how they want to go with. But at number 7, I have another team that's got a brighter future than their present. It's the Ottawa Senators. And the reason why I picked the Senators here is because, well, I don't see anyone who's currently going to be a star player this season as of now. The Senators haven't had anyone like that since the days of Erik Karlsson, Mark Stone, Mike Hoffman, and Matt Duchene, when all those 4 guys are on the same team, making runs for the playoffs almost every other year. Now this team is completely different. They have so many young stars, and their next captain is probably going to be either Thomas Chabot or Brady Tkachuk. I'm pretty sure it's going to go to Tkachuk. I haven't seen much leadership from Chabot compared to him, but this team, Cam, the prospects by heart, man. You can tell them right now.
Yeah,
like this team is stacked. So I'm going with the Sens at 7.
A couple. I mean, Tim Stützle, the 3rd overall pick from was it 2020? He's turning heads. He's got a lot of talent. They just locked up Drake Batherson. A lot of people think he's going to be a 30-goal scorer, which I can't disagree. And I just want to talk about their defense. Thomas Chabot, starting with him. Artem Zub's a young guy. They brought in from Russia. He had a really good rookie year. Lassie Thompson's playing well in the AHL. Jake Sanderson, Jacob Bernard Docker. The list goes on and on. Shane Pinto coming over from NCAA, really responsible 2-way guy. I mean, I could keep naming guys from Ottawa. They have the one thing they've done is they've treated the rebuild properly, and they have not rushed the process, and they are developing their players incredibly well. And so 7th, if you're a Senators fan, don't worry about it. Again, I think that is their floor. I think they could finish as high as probably 5th in the division, but the years are bright to come, Ottawa fans.
And Pierre Dorion has done a wonderful job for this rebuild. Probably one of the best rebuilds I've ever seen the last 10 years, guaranteed for sure.
Yeah,
this is an amazing rebuild. But coming in at number 6, I got the Montreal Canadiens. Now, this is a very shocking decision for some people to take. How is Detroit not 6 over Montreal? Here's why. First of all, considering they just had a magnificent run for a Stanley Cup final run, lost to Tampa in 5. This is not going to be their year. They lost too many good players that you can't even consider losing. They didn't lock up Philip Deneau for a longer period of time. I don't know what Carey Price shows up next year, but age seems to be catching up. We saw Henrik Lundqvist, what happened to him at 40. He said he was going to continue after his surgery, but he just ended up retiring. He can't play due to age. Price is not as old as Lundqvist, but again, different story, but it's going to be a very similar one in the years to come. But this year, I think losing Denault was major. Losing Shea Weber out of there for the rest of the year with an injury, major. So and the Red Wings, they seem to have something going altogether, which I'll get to. But for now, I'm taking the Canadiens at 6. It's just been a massive downgrade year for them. Even though I will say this, they'll have a lot of prosperous talent. This year may not be their year, but next year might be their year again, because I just loved watching Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki and Tyler Toffoli and those guys all coming together as one and just playing hockey. It's amazing to watch the Canadiens, but for now, I just got to go with the Canadiens at 6. This year won't be their year.
Yeah, I actually had Montreal a little higher, but after debating about it for the last couple nights, and I do have them at 6. And I just don't really trust their defense, to be honest. Losing a guy like Shea Weber, he brings a lot of pieces to the table that maybe people don't talk about. Excellent leadership. He's their captain. He logs heavy minutes. And looking up front, the moves they made this offseason, losing Jesperi Kotkaniemi, which, understandable. I probably wouldn't match that offer sheet. But I think they did overpay to bring in a guy like Christian Dvorak, who, who's a solid top 6 guy, but giving up those assets, I probably would have tried to give up a little less. But I do think they're going to be a solid team. I think the Atlantic is going to be pretty competitive. So obviously I can see these guys making the playoffs. Obviously they're just coming off a Stanley Cup final loss. But just look what happened to the Dallas Stars last. They're coming off. They had a great run. They come in, they missed the playoffs. Yeah. So Montreal, they have a lot of great things going. Nick Suzuki, obviously a fan favorite there. Cole Caulfield. They're developing Alexander Romanov on D, and they still have a guy like Carey Price, even though he is getting older. Everybody's getting older day by day. Or maybe he's a little bit out of his prime. But Montreal 6, but again, I could see them absolutely finishing higher and maybe surprising some people.
Yeah, this team, you never know. I feel like that might be one of my hot takes, and by hot takes, defining that it's a take that's reasonably sensical, but may not be true. I do not like putting the Canadiens at 6. I just don't think this is going to be true, but I want to finally give some respect to the Detroit Red Wings, who come in at number 5, because the way they performed at the end of the season, they had a disastrous season in the 1920 season. That was terrible just watching them. Then they made some good changes. I think they acquired Bobby Ryan, and they acquired a lot of other good pieces. Tyler Bertuzzi and Dylan Larkin will lead the show this year, Larkin being their captain. And, some great additions to this team. Acquiring Alex Nedeljkovic for, I think, Jonathan Bernier, I think it was. Or maybe it might be Reimer. I keep getting mixed.
It was Bernier.
It was Bernier. That's a great steal. That's a steal. Probably the best trade or best steal of the entire NHL offseason that I've seen so far. They go and also acquire Jakub Vrana earlier this year. And even though they lost Mantha to Capitals, but Vrana had an amazing end of the year. Expect him to become a big part of this franchise. And Stevie Y is just making great moves right now. And I love to see this team finally perform. It's been years watching the Red Wings struggle, but I think this year they won't make it, but they will be much closer than they were in the past. So I'm taking Detroit at number 5.
I'm also going to pick Detroit at 5, and I'm going to go into a little bit of depth from their organization, how well they have managed things. Obviously, after making the playoffs for 20 some odd years, that generation, Lidstrom, Datsyuk, Zetterberg, etc. Those teams were incredible. But I feel like it was a rebuild, retool. I feel like it's been fairly quick. It's not something that's going to last 10 plus years. And it starts with the front office. You look at a guy like Steve Yzerman, who has a history with Tampa Bay, building contenders, very smart general manager, really acquires complementary pieces very nicely. Their scouting department is off the charts. It always has been in Detroit. And I'm looking at this core, and it really does excite me. I'm not a Red Wings fan, but it excites me to see a team that I think is going to be one of the more competitive teams in years to come. So fifth, I think this is just a start, but look who they have. Dylan Larkin as one of their centers. Jakub Vrana, who I think they absolutely stole from Washington. They've got Tyler Bertuzzi, who knows how he'll factor in. Maybe he's trade bait. Lucas Raymond coming over from Sweden. He's going to be an absolute animal. Philip Zadina is still young. And then my favorite, Mo Seider, he could absolutely be a top 5 defenseman in the NHL as soon as 2-3 years from now. And plus guys like Kronik, Joey Veleno, a guy they stole in the draft, and then they come in and trade for complementary pieces. A guy like off the charts. I don't know. They re-signed Adam Ernie. They trade Mitch Stevens. They acquire him from Tampa Bay, who didn't get a lot of ice time there. A guy who could be a solid bottom 6 piece. And so Detroit's doing things really well. They trade for Nick Leddy, of course. They're taking steps in the right direction. And of course,
they resigned Mark Stahl. Good move. And he was for a much cheaper deal, because Mark Stahl, the reason why we traded away Mark Stahl to the Red Wings was because his salary, we couldn't take it anymore. And his contract was running to an end, but we didn't want to take it. Look, they just signed him for $1 million. He was a $5 million player for 6 seasons and just went to a 1-year, $1 million deal.
Guy.
And he's a good defenseman. I mean, veteran presence matters a lot in Detroit, obviously.
Yeah, especially during a rebuild, you can't underestimate these veteran guys coming in and leading the way. They've done it before. They know what it takes to win in this league. A guy like Mark Stahl can be very under the radar, very underappreciated. And then I love the loyalty to Jeff Blashill, because I do think he is a coach. Obviously, the fans are going to crap on a guy like Blashill. He's not winning during a rebuild, okay? But to have the loyalty to stick with a coach during a rebuild, and the coach to stick with a team, I think that goes a long way in an organization of building an identity and having just a good team atmosphere and a great team culture. It starts with the coach as well. And the players are going through it, the management's going through it, the whole organization. So a lot of respect for keeping Blashill around, because I do think he's a solid coach. He has worked his way up from the AHL system to Detroit. So that's an excellent move, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And you know, there's going to be a lot of good changes for these bottom 4 teams: the Red Wings, the Canadiens, Senators, and Sabres, who me and Cam all had correctly, I would say, similarly predicted in their positions. I think they're all going to be great in the future. Now, these top 4 teams that are remaining, no matter what order it's going to be in, me and Cam have the exact 4 teams, not in order, but in the top 4. I wouldn't agree that saying that they really have as bright of a future compared to the bottom 4. But coming in at number 4, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs here. And the reason why I'm taking the Maple Leafs at number 4 is for a few reasons. One, they didn't have as great of a free agency as they did last year. I mean, last year was just, they like robbed every store. They robbed the NHL. They signed so many great players, and they acquired so much. It looked like that this was going to be their year for a Stanley Cup final, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So coming into this year, they gave away Nick Foligno to Boston, but they got Nick Ritchie. They acquired Andre Kasha. They've been in the mix of a playoff first round berth for years and years and years. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened for a long time. But again, I think this year might be their year, Cam. I really have high hopes for this team. This team really deserves it. I don't know when is Austin Matthews going to finally reach a Stanley Cup final, which he desperately deserves. Same with Mitch Marner. And, they got rid of Freddie Anderson. Good move there. And they got Peter Mrazek. That's even a better move. Peter Mrazek has been pretty stellar in the playoffs so far. In his career, he made an Eastern Conference final, lost to Boston, but still, Bruins team was on fire. But the point being that I think the Maple Leafs, they've changed their scenery. They have a great general manager, probably the best general manager in the NHL, in Kyle Dubas, in my opinion. But again, this team has a lot to show, and I think the Maple Leafs will not better than the top 3 that are remaining, but definitely I would say the Maple Leafs could make a presence in the playoffs. They'll go for probably a wild card spot, and I do have them making a wild card spot.
Nice. For my fourth team, I'm going with my own Boston Bruins. For me, I love Boston, of course, and they have the best top line in hockey right now. There is a couple question marks heading into the season, though. First and foremost, the media has been talking about who's going to fill that void. David Krejci left. A couple of candidates include Charlie Coyle, Jack Studnicka, Nick Foligno, Eric Halla, and amongst others, and probably an internal battle in camp. I don't think it will be anything external to go and acquire. I imagine it's going to be Charlie Coyle. And the goaltending situation, Rask has been a staple there for years. Now he's injured, unsigned. Ullmark and Swayman should be a good tandem, but obviously Ullmark has an injury history and Swayman is still a very young goaltender. So there is some minor questions there. But honestly, I'd say Boston's a playoff team. They could easily contend for the first to fourth spot in this division. And they have the best first line in hockey. And I do think Charlie Coyle and the goaltending tandem will be just fine.
Yeah, well said. I think the Bruins, they could be quite good contenders for a 2019 run again, but not here at number 3. Number 3, I have the Florida Panthers, so the Bruins will be much up. But the Panthers, for some reason, I don't think they're considered to be better than the last 2 teams, and here's why. Look, I mean, this team has a great chemistry. When you think about it, you have Jonathan Huberdeau, you got Alexander Barkov, Aaron Ekblad. Hopefully he comes the same way he's been throughout his career. Poor guy had to miss the rest of the season with the terrible injury, but guys like Aaron Ekblad, guys like Alexander Barkov, Jonathan Huberdeau, those guys are good. They gave away Keith Yandel, who wasn't really a mainstay on the team. He was just more of a veteran presence type guy. They re-signed Anthony Duclair. Good move. And this team is ready to make the playoffs once again. But the only reason I'm taking them at number 3 is just because of the teams that are ahead of them. I don't think that, the Boston Bruins and the Tampa Bay Lightning are any way worse than the Florida Panthers, in my opinion. So I think that 3rd is their landing spot and 3rd is going to be their ceiling. I don't think they can go any higher than that. So I'm taking the Florida Panthers at number 3.
Number 3, I'm going with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto, I think they've been one of the better regular season teams. And I really did like the moves Dubas did make this offseason. I don't think there was anything too flashy, of course, but the moves were very effective. You look at who you bring in net, Peter Mrazek and Jack Campbell should be a fine 1A, 1B situation. Mrazek has a history of winning in the playoffs. It's all good there. The defense, he's rebuilt solid, not a lot of moves on that side. I'd expect Rasmus Sandin and Timothy Liljegren to probably get some more minutes. Up front, I love the addition of Michael Bunting. Very under the radar guy in Arizona, a guy who I think has 20 goal scoring potential. I think he had 10. He had a lot of goals. I think like 10 goals or something last year. I don't remember. That was on the top of my head. But a guy who he shoots very well. You could put him on the top 6, and I bet he could bury 20. You bring in a guy like Andre Casa, is a really good player. He's just had a tough luck with injury history. So if he can find a way to be healthy, I think he should factor in on the middle 6 somewhere. And then a guy like Nick Ritchie, who is a Boston fan, he was inconsistent, but a guy who can still, score double-digit goals and be a physical piece for Toronto. 3rd, I think the other 2 teams I'm going to list are just going to be better. But I think they could easily contend from anywhere to 3rd to 4th place in the division.
Speaking so much about the Boston Bruins, why not just put them at 2nd place here? I have the Bruins coming in at 2nd, and this team has had a wonderful offseason. Credits to, the people working at the front office, and credits to their head coach, Bruce Cassidy. He's done a wonderful job this last few years. And, he's probably one of the best NHL head coaches right now in the league. And, of course, how can you forget about the Boston Bruins without considering that top line? I mean, Pastrnak, Bergeron, Marchand, easily the top 3 lines. Marchand is a top 3 left winger in the league. Pasternak's a top 3 right winger in the league. And Bergeron is probably one of the best centers in the past 10 years and probably one of the best of all. I don't know about all time, but he's definitely a future Hall of Famer for sure. And, you got to consider the fact that this team is also very gritty, considering the fact they also acquired Nick Foligno. Very, very, very physical team. Defense is the only thing that's getting my question, and the goaltending situation. The defense needs a bit of upgrading, I'd say. Over the last 2 years, losing Torrey Krug was a major loss. Losing, of course, their captain Zdeno Chara, a massive loss. But again, this team will always find their ways out. They've always been able to do it. I have no worries for the Boston Bruins in terms of their playoff structure. But the goaltending situation is going to be kind of funky, not seeing Tuukka Rask, not seeing Jaroslav Halak. Now you see Linus Ullmark from the Buffalo Sabres, and you see Jeremy Swayman, another good goaltender. Those two guys will be the tandem. It'll be an interesting tandem to watch. And who will possibly fill in the role of David Krejci's, long tenureness, who knows? I mean, honestly, I think Charlie Coyle might be their second center behind Bergeron, but it'll be interesting to watch how they roll out their lines. But no problem for the Bruins in terms of making the playoffs. I absolutely see it 100%. And, Cam, for number 2, I want to see who your pick is.
I picked, maybe it's a hot take, maybe not. I picked Tampa Bay. And people might come at me now and say, how come you can't rank guys first? They didn't. Their offseason was good. I mean, they kept the majority of their core. I mean, you lose Yanni Gourde, a really effective middle six guy, to Seattle. You trade Tyler Johnson away for cap reasons, which, obviously does make sense. They bring in a guy like Brian Elliott, get backup goaltender. But, I mean, the moves were good. They kept the majority of their core. You think who's still around. I mean, you lost Coleman and Gaudreau, good bottom six guys. But the good thing is, like I said, they kept their core. Point, Stamkos, Hedman, Vasilevsky, Anthony Cirelli, Kucherov. Those guys aren't going anywhere. They're still here. They're going to be one of the best teams in our league next season. And, yeah, they could easily finish first. So, but I just think I'll tell you guys why, once they pick the number 1 team, why I think they're going to finish first. But Tampa Bay, I think they just had some depth losses that might hurt them a little bit. They're still going to be a contender. They're still going to be a very good team. Don't worry. They'll be right in the mix of things come playoff time.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And then, my number 1 pick is the Tampa Bay Lightning. And, as Cam basically said, they did lose a lot. They lost more than they gained. And you have to admit, even though they did win the cup, they kind of did it knowing that they're going to lose a lot for the next season. 18 million over the cap. You got rid of Tyler Johnson. You got rid of several other pieces. Barclay Goodrow to the Rangers. Blake Coleman to the Calgary Flames. That's a lot and a lot to lose. But again, they won't give up their core, as you said. Braden Point, Victor Hedman, Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, Andre Palat, and Alex Killorn. You forgot to mention Ryan McDonough. They haven't lost those guys, and they probably won't. And those guys are not someone you want to mess with. Ryan McDonough and Victor Hedman are both incredible defensemen. Alex Killorn and Andre Palat, and they give you your tenure. Nikita Kucherov is a top 3 right winger, no doubt. And Steven Stamkos is a great center as long as he's not hurt. So this team, honestly, will just keep rolling. And I don't like the Brian Elliott move. Honestly, if Vasilevsky, God forbid, gets hurt and somehow and it's bad, putting Brian Elliott in terms of a Lightning situation is not going to work out. He's just nowhere comparable to that team. They are so much better than him. So I don't honestly see how you can go from a Vezina candidate goalie every year to Brian Elliott if that happens. That's the only thing that's concerning me. And the Tyler Johnson move, I get it, but unfortunately you had to give someone up, and it had to be one of your core leaders. So it makes sense, but I'm taking Tampa at number 1, no doubt.
Yep, understandable, of course. My number 1 pick is going to be the Florida Panthers. And I'm looking at this. Bill Zito, their general manager, has done a fabulous job. First, you bring in the guy, Joel Quenneville, one of the best head coaches of all time. And you look at this core has been together for a long time now. Ekblad, Huberdeau, and Barkov. And then you bring in a guy like the guy breaks out like Mackenzie Weegar. Who would figure he'd be a top 15 defenseman in the National Hockey League? And then you get some chemistry. Carter Verhaeghe breaks out. And you bring in Sam Reinhart, who could be a 35-40 goal man. And then you've got Anton Lundell, who's ready, NHL ready, and he's a very good prospect. And he'll probably be on your third line. You still got Anthony Duclair and Sam Bennett, who had a lot of chemistry late in the year with Jonathan Huberdeau. And then, I mean, the goaltending situation may be cause for concern, but Spencer Knight is one of the best goaltending prospects. And I have all the faith in the world. He will post fine numbers. And then Bobrovsky, he's playing behind a very good team. He's just going to play average to above average, like 912, 915 save percentage, and he'll be an effective guy. I know not worth the 10 some odd $1 million, but Florida, they're a contender. My hot take is they're going to win the President's Trophy. And I think their defense is underrated. Gustav Forsling had a great year last year. Brendan Montour fit into the system extremely well. And I just loved all the moves they made and done. They're a contender. They really are.
That's an incredible hot take to make, honestly. I feel like that the Florida Panthers, they're on to something, but I just haven't seen the reason to why. But there's your reasoning, guys. So thanks for watching, and have a great day, guys.